Okay. Uh, Good morning and welcome to IGTV. Chuck, are you on the line?
I'm on the line. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you as clear as day, Chuck. Welcome to IGTV, and welcome to our first, I guess, EMP SIG update from the InfraGard National Members Alliance, down in the Maryland, D.C. area.
Well, I appreciate being here, and I'm glad to share an update with you.
All right, so why don't we take it off on our first point, and why don't you roll right into it, Chuck?
Sure. Well, what was interesting, as you know from our last call, we had succeeded in October 3 through 6 to put on a very unique set of planning workshops, tabletop exercise, and a conference. And I thought I'd mention what was unique about it again for those who haven't heard it before, and what we did in each of the program elements, and lead into the next part of the discussion. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. Well, as you know, as we've been looking at a whole series of threats or vulnerabilities, what they're known as is high-impact, low-frequency events, and the North American Energy Reliability Corporation came out with a report on that, showing that there are a handful of ways, as many as a half a dozen, that could cause a simultaneous nationwide collapse of power grids and infrastructure. Those include anywhere from a coordinated physical attack, where snipers take out transformers across the country. It could be a cyber attack. It could be a 100-year solar storm that brings down grids because of the shorts that happen in the transformers, and a similar electromagnetic pulse event that's caused by a high-altitude nuke burst, something 10 to 300 miles above ground. All of those could have devastating consequences. They used to call them high-impact, low-probability events, but because they started looking at the natural event of a solar storm, it's 100% likely given enough time. We've experienced them in smaller events from time to time, but the large one is roughly every 100 years. We had one in 1921 and 1859, and it's not a matter of if, but when in that case.
Okay. So, okay. Well, that's interesting. What was the impact of the 1959?
Well, what happened? 1859.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it was 1921 and 1859. 1859 is the one that you hear as the Carrington effect, named after an amateur British astronomer who noticed sunspots and reported that. And subsequently to that, we had the aurora borealis down at the equator, and telegraph lines were burning up. Guys whose batteries were out of power suddenly were powered up. A whole bunch of interesting things in a very crude infrastructure that we had at the time.
Okay.
So anyway, what we did is, I had spent some time talking with folks at the National Defense University and encouraged them to actually develop a tabletop exercise and a planning workshop where they would actually do some contingency planning with federal, military and civilian organizations, state government, local government, industry, where we would actually look at this kind of event. Because in the last couple of years, as we've been talking with folks who are experts in this, we discovered that no federal agency, including the military, has ever done any contingency planning for emergency services purposes for an event nationwide that would last more than a week or two. And I was very appalled by that because, even if there's not a lot you can do about something, you at least ought to think through it and have a contingency plan for it. And since there are half dozen different ways that these events can happen, and since it's an absolute certainty that, a 100-year solar storm will happen again, I was very surprised that we've not planned for something like this. And the importance of that is that, normally we tell people in an emergency, stay home, stay out of the way. In a week or two, it'll all be better, and we'll tell you can come back to work and, go back to normal. But whenever you have a power outage that might last a month or longer, suddenly life becomes a little different. A lot of the people you told to stay home home are the very people you need to talk to because you start running out of food and medicine. So the people you need to plan for these events that last more than a month are far broader than what we normally do or include.
Well, let me stop you there, Chuck, because we're up on this segment, and when we come back, we'll hear more from Chuck Manto on the EMP SIG.